Hello, everyone. Welcome to Popcast on the Rocks on another Friday. This is episode 26. As you can see, we got a little new opening video to hint at our upcoming theme, maybe. And otherwise, I'm John. I'm joined by Andrea. How are you doing?
I am good. Congrats on that cool intro you put together. How long did that take you?
Thanks. Not too long. I sat and did this song in, I don't know what it was. Must have been 20 minutes or half hour or something like that. And then
wow, not bad.
Once I got the instruments I wanted on there, that took the longest, I guess. And then the filming, first I was going to do, because our normal opening, is with whiskey. So I thought, well, maybe I would do something with, I just thought tea or some sort of, if I could make Japanese whiskey look specific somehow.
Sure.
Yeah, I went with matcha. I was like, that's very, very fitting, very Japanese. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. Yeah, nice work.
Thanks. Yeah.
You're quite creative there.
But I don't spend too long on it. We won't have a samurai themed episode too often, probably. So take the chance and try it here. But I talked to you a couple days ago already.
Yes.
You've been exhausted. Still exhausted.
Unfortunately, like. we've just been doing a lot of house projects lately. So, kind of getting all of that together is a lot. We've been painting the house, and now today we were doing a bunch of different yard work. We built a new fire pit in our house. So
it's house?
Yeah. At
in
our
house. Okay.
Yes.
Open fire pit in the house.
I know, right? Yeah, very like Viking Lodge style. We're just, like we gutted the house, and we're just gonna have a meat spit instead of a kitchen.
Yes.
Yeah. So no, we built a new fire pit outdoors. So
okay.
It's all looking very cool, but I just forget, like, on top of a work day, then you like do all your house projects, and it's like, oh my God.
I don't envy you or miss those days.
Yeah.
We have enough general like slow time or whatever that we, unless it's something is urgent, you can kind of wait to do those things, right? On more of the off time. So.
Right. Well, we are we're having an appraiser come out to our house this week. So we're trying to, make everything look nice and update a few things while we can. So.
Yep.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're just on a timetable now.
You just trying to pay more for property taxes? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, so we're doing like we're getting so adult. It's so funny. But these are the things they talk about now. But yeah, so we're looking to do a refinance so we can get rid of our mortgage insurance, get up to that like 20% threshold so we can get rid of our mortgage insurance, possibly lock in a lower interest rate. And then depending on what the house appraises at, take out if it's a certain percentage more that it has, appraised in value, we would take out some of the cash and then do some other like home improvement projects. Okay. So we'll see. Fingers crossed. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's the adult life now that we are, mid-30s homeowners. We're just like, woo, get those projects going.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, not much new has happened with me in the last couple days. Other than just getting some work done.
Sure.
That's about it. So my new chair did come in today, but I haven't been able to get it and open it up and put it together yet. So next episode should be sitting in luxury.
Nice.
So,
yeah, I finally got an actual like office chair that I'm sitting in, which is great because I was sitting on like a steel, like just, straight back chair, and that was awful. So digging this.
Well, do you have a strong alcoholic beverage to get you through the I don't know, the tired I don't
The
know, does that help with the tiredness, the weariness, the alcohol, I guess? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm
Bringing
kind
the
of
weekend strong.
yeah, I was gonna say I'm one of those people who I know alcohol is like a depressant, but alcohol does not make me tired. Like alcohol
Okay.
does actually like pump me up. Sadly, I totally forgot. Like
Oh.
I was so concerned with like, hey, I'm just like burning tree branches outside. Nobody needs to see my sweaty wood chippy face. That I totally forgot to grab a drink. So I have water.
Oh. Well, if you'd like to stick with water, you're certainly welcome to. I don't want to be a bad influence, but I can certainly spew on about a couple news topics beforehand if you want to get one. But otherwise, I understand. Wine makes me tired. Like
Yeah.
alcohol, not so much, but wine, man,
Yeah.
just knock a person out.
Yeah, it's funny how that like happens where I do get sleepy with wine, like a little. Beer makes me very full, but then like hard
Mm.
alcohol, it's like, let's go.
Yep, nice.
Well, what do you have? I know I saw you
Um,
drinking out of a big tall glass earlier, so you seem like you have a big
yes.
strong drink.
So I, in honor of the samurai theme, I've got
Mhm.
a highball. It's the most like common way in Japan to drink whiskey.
Okay.
Um, Either the highball with sparkling water or um, I forget the term for one with still water, but mine's with sparkling. And it's with this EY Japanese whiskey. I
Okay.
don't know if that's focused on that. And it was gifted to me by by Tony, by our friend Tony. So
Nice.
and Nicole. So they gave that to me for my birthday.
Certainly know you
And so yeah,
well.
yes, exactly. So yeah, I've got a highball, which is just Japanese whiskey with sparkling water. And I put for fun, because I'm a
Mhm.
fun guy, I put some orange juice in it, like just to squeeze a little orange in there. So
Sure. Just a little
yeah,
dash of flavor,
yeah,
a
yep.
little something
Why not?
extra. I like it. Well,
So
I could certainly
it's
go make
delicious.
that. I just, like I said, just totally ran in here and was like,
Well,
I'm on
I
time. I'm at
want
my computer. I'm ready to go. And
I
then was
want you
just
to do
like,
what you want to do, but we got three stories before we get to like the real me of things that I'm guessing you won't have much to say on. They're not like big groundbreaking things. They're just like should mention them.
yeah,
So
for sure.
either way, but yeah. So anyways, as the like main introduction here, the game Ghost of Tsushima
Hmm.
is out now,
Hmm.
and it's a game I've been looking forward to. Uh, like, do you ever have anything where you really, really want to like it, but then you have
Yes.
trouble liking it?
Yes. Absolutely. That happens
So
to me a lot
I,
with like TV shows and movies where I'm like really excited about something, especially if it stars somebody that I love and I really,
yeah,
really want to
right,
like it. And then I just don't.
yeah,
Like the most recent example I can think of is Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, who I love. Everybody knows I
mhm.
love him. Was in a reboot of Baywatch.
Oh
And I
yes,
really wanted to like it. And there were some like moments, but on the whole, eh, like it just wasn't good. Like he
okay,
was good, but the movie wasn't good.
yeah,
So
right,
yeah, totally get that.
yeah. So this game, I very much want to like because I love the
Mhm.
aesthetic. I love Japan,
Mhm.
but I am not good with games that focus around combat generally. I'm just
Sure.
not. I don't know. I'm not skilled at it. Whatever. I don't put in enough time to master it, which is very un-Japanese of me, I guess. But anyways, I want to like it. I will end up getting it, I'm sure. But I'll definitely end up listening to the music. I'll listen to a lot of the music on it,
Sure.
and I'm excited that it exists. So
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I hadn't realized A, how long this game had been in development. Like people have known about it and it's been being developed, for a number of years. I think they were saying like 4 or 5 at least.
Mm. Makes
Um,
sense.
so yeah, so I mean, I had no idea, how long it was possible for people to get excited about this game. And then also, I saw a lot of um not necessarily reviews, but just like first, sort of reactions and things that were focused around using photo mode. And I feel like that would be your forte. Like you'd get the game and like really be excited about photo mode. Um
Yes.
so yeah,
Yes,
so
absolutely.
not necessarily like the combat would be up your alley, but just like the visuals and the style and like the things you could do like production value wise in creating like art and
Mhm.
photos of your own. I think that would be really cool.
I've heard one person compare it to kind of a Breath of the Wild
Yeah. Mhm.
sequel, just in the sense of the world that they're putting together.
Mhm.
And usually it seems like it's not quite there and it's how magical it is or whatever. But
Right.
just they're going for that kind of thing. And I've loved Breath of the Wild the most after
Mhm.
I beat the main story. I
Sure.
beat the main story and then it's like, oh, pressure's off. Now I can just play around. I can just
Sure.
be in this world and have fun. And I think maybe I could do that with this game. Even if I
Yeah.
have to be like a wimp and put it on easy mode or something like that. And then
Sure.
I never can bring myself to do that. It's like I'll just
Sure.
not play a game if I feel like if I'm feeling compelled that I should put it in easy mode. I
Yeah.
just don't need to play it there. So yeah.
Well, a couple of the reviews I was reading were saying that one of the points in the game's favor is its really strong through line of the story. Like it's very
Mhm.
easy to remember like what you're doing, what part of the story you're in, like your ultimate objective and your purpose and like how this part of the game is going to advance the narrative. Um which as somebody who's playing Borderlands right now, I really appreciate because not gonna lie, like the first Borderlands is a little frenetic in the
Mhm.
sense of like what am I doing in terms of moving this story forward.
Yep.
um, so that to me was like a really great positive that came out of like some of the first reviews.
Yep. Well, I'll put a pin in it there, and I want to come back to that point.
Sure.
We get to cover the like three non-related topics here, news stories
Yeah.
quickly. So it was announced now that Xbox, their service Project X Cloud, that's their
Hmm.
streaming service where you can play games from their servers on your mobile phone or whatever, is going to be included with Game Pass starting in September.
Yes.
So everybody seems to figure this was the deal, going to be the deal already, but maybe that there'd be a price hike. Seems like if you have Game Pass Ultimate, you're good to go. You have then that means you have Game Pass for
Right.
Xbox, Game Pass for PC, Xbox Live Gold, and now xCloud. So
Right.
be a pretty good deal, I think.
Hmm.
Um, another Microsoft story, Xbox One, they've stopped production of the Xbox One X and the Xbox One S all digital edition.
Yeah. I saw that.
So yeah, it's interesting that this was announced. Often you
Hmm.
just see like dwindling stock. I guess you don't get to see that now because stock's already been non-existent
Right.
for all consoles basically. But yeah, they're moving the pieces, getting ready for the new stuff, I guess.
Hmm.
And then Paper Mario is out now too. Could be doing
Yeah.
a whole like Nintendo Paper Mario theme kind of thing or something. I could be wearing a mushroom hat, but I don't care. So that's on me. I don't care.
I was gonna say we did talk about this briefly, and I
Hmm.
think a couple episodes ago, where you're just like Paper Mario, whatever, it's
Yep.
nice, good
Yep.
job.
I watched the
It's
Nintendo thing about it. They showed off gameplay and
yeah, I mean, it's really only significant because it's one of the few things that like Nintendo's doing right now. Truly.
yes.
I mean, we've already talked, I think, pretty at length about the fact that they've released Animal Crossing. And that's really big and really great. And that's like kind of, their big thing for this year. But yeah, Paper Mario, that's like their other thing. And then it's like, well,
Yep.
what else you got?
Yep. Yep. That's kind of it. I'm gonna like show and tell now. So I showed you my
Yes,
Japanese whiskey. That was a gift.
that's
I
right.
am wearing I am wearing yukata from Japan.
Can you,
So
can you give us a
it's
little twirl there, John?
I don't know what will end up being like shown on it, but
Yes, perfect.
so that's um first time I went to Japan. Alan was
Mhm.
there, and we went to hot spring,
Mhm.
and they give you ones to wear in there and stuff or whatever. But yeah, I got this on that trip, and
Did you purchase it or did you take that from the hot spring?
no, I purchased it.
Okay.
I stole it
I
from
was
the
gonna
hot spring.
well,
Yeah.
I was gonna say that people steal robes from hotels like all the time. Like
uh,
this would be just like
okay.
the
All
Japanese
right.
version.
No, no. So yeah, I bought it, and
Looks nice.
it's they're I mean they're literally like bathrobes is the
Mhm.
idea,
Yep.
but they've become more popular in
Mhm.
recent years, and people wear them to festivals and all that stuff.
Right.
So when on a
Does
hot summer
Ashley
day,
does Ashley have one as well?
she does not.
Oh,
She
I'm
does not.
surprised.
Yeah, well, when we go back, I always tease her like, oh, when we go back when we're like 45 or 50, I just because I want to go back, it seems like it's to be forever, but when we go
Yeah.
back, she wants to get fitted for kimono.
Oh,
So
okay.
get an
Nice.
actual like kimono.
Nice.
So
Yeah, I mean,
that's
if
the
you're gonna do
plan.
it, like, do it right, get it custom made and get it for you.
Yep. Mhm. So, and then this is not from Japan, but it is the only katana I have.
Yes.
So this was actually given to me by my brother-in-law as like a wedding favor for
Yeah.
being groomsman. So
Nice.
yeah, it is. I love it. It's very nice. It's always hanging above my desk, so you never see it,
Mhm.
but it's just up on the wall, like normal
Sure.
in here. So I
Very
wish you
cool.
could like hear my noise canceller will stop the sound of the click probably.
Nope,
Maybe
I
hear
can
it.
hear it.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
I mean, it's
So
it's probably not as sharp as it would be in person, but I could definitely hear that
yeah.
click.
So I love this thing. It's as a sharp edge, but if you were to use it in combat, it would dull quickly, is my understanding.
Sure.
So it's not like very $1,200 plus kind of katana, but
Combat ready.
great. But it holds an edge. You could chop watermelons with it.
Yeah,
So
cool. Have you tried or is that an anecdote?
I when I lived with Wes, I had it in the backyard and was chopping like little twigs off of a tree. So
Nice.
that's about it.
Okay.
So I think that's about it for my show and tell, I suppose. But
Very
getting in
cool.
the theme. Yep.
Absolutely.
Um, and then okay, so samurai stuff.
Mhm.
We'll go over the Ghost of Tsushima stuff before we get to a little bit like the movie we watched this week, then,
Mhm.
and a little more about our experience with all things samurai.
Yes.
Um, so you were mentioning how some people liked the streamlinedness of the story,
Mhm.
and I totally agree. I had a period where I was playing a bunch of games where it's just the side of your screen is filled with quests, optional
Yes.
quests, side stories, all this stuff. And that's fine. Some people love that, like tick off the boxes. I
Mhm.
sometimes get frustrated with that. Like
Mhm.
it's not fun to me. It's overload.
Mhm.
Um, so something that gives me the makes it easier for me to follow a story, go through something, and then afterwards, if I want to poke around and do extra side things, then I can.
Mhm.
So it's very clear that this is an intentionally minimalist display without a
Yes.
whole bunch of stuff cluttering everywhere. So,
Yeah, and kind of, on that same theme, I think one of my big frustrations right now with with Borderlands, even though I do love it, I love the game and I'm definitely going to keep playing, is that it's not always clear what is an optional quest. Do you know what I mean? Like, it isn't always
Okay.
clear
Interesting.
when, like, the thing that I have to do is directly related to the storyline, or if it's just like go get some experience and then like continue with the story, or if it's truly optional. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Most
there's
games, yeah, they separate them in your objectives list, you know, main,
yeah.
side, optional.
Yeah, and I think there's a clearer through line as I'm watching like Chris play Borderlands 3. There's a clearer story and he's able to like kind of follow that, a little bit easier and determine, what he's going to save to do optionally later. But yeah, I'm struggling and I could still be in just like too early of a stage, although I don't know how at this point. Um but I better not be, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, so I also appreciate like just the idea that Ghost of Tsushima is really clear and like moving you forward. You know exactly why you're doing what you're doing. You know how you relate to the characters around you. It just builds a through
Mhm.
story.
There's that site. I think we talked about it before. How long to beat a site, and it'll tell you how long
Oh
it
yeah,
takes to
yeah.
beat a game. But I don't think you can like specify by shanking only um, how long it takes to beat.
Right.
Might take longer that way.
Right. Which, I've considered, I've factored into my understanding that I won't be moving forward as quickly. But yeah. Yeah, it is frustrating though. Just sometimes I like go through the game and I'm like, so I think this is what I'm supposed to do, but then I like finish a mission and it's like, okay, well that didn't get me anywhere or that didn't like move me forward really. So,
Yep. I love how much this game seems that they have. We were talking about Assassin's Creed Valhalla the other day and how they went
yeah.
to Norway and different things to kind
Right.
of get an idea and experience different things and learn about it. And it seems like they put that effort into this game as well.
Absolutely.
Being
Yes.
very mindful and of the true story that events that this is based around, and
Mhm.
then just the idea of the truth to the Japanese lore and mythology and culture and all that stuff.
Right.
In the Inari shrines around that foxes would lead you to, and the just the clear heads up display and lack of like clutter, like
Yes.
is emblematic of the simplicity that is respected in Japanese culture. So
Mhm.
I like all that stuff.
Right.
Have you watched any full reviews or just like kind of read some things around and kind of get a feel for what people are saying? It seems positive
Yeah.
mostly.
Yeah, I think so. Um, yeah, it's funny because one of the first things I was like, kind of searching around for some reviews that I popped up on was a message from the creator who was saying, like, oh, like the headline was like, I love criticism, it makes us better. And I clicked on it and was like, oh my God, like, before I go read reviews, is it just going to be like an avalanche of negativity?
Hmm.
Um, and then it just turned out to be like a very clickbaity headline where,
Oh,
he was
okay.
just saying like, yeah, if I'm looking and I'm really interested to see all of the reviews coming in, if there's criticism, like I'm really excited because it only, makes us work harder and makes us better. But really it was just like, kind of a bunch of like preemptive nothing.
Yeah.
And
It
most of the reviews that I've read and some of them that I've watched have been very positive.
um it seems to me that some of the scores for places that do give scores
Yeah.
are skewing a little higher than what they say. It seems like what's
Yes.
overwhelming people is how incredibly beautiful this game is, the world that's
Absolutely.
been created, how fun it is to be in this place and explore. And when you get the hang of the combat, how well that flows. Like that was
Mhm.
great sword combat. But there's a lot of talk. I've seen it several times now where some of the quests seem to always come down to, oh, I met this person. This person wants me to find this other person. So I'll find that person. And that one person wants me to find another person. So I'll find that person. And that person wants me to find another person. And so I'll find that person. And so some of that, so side quest structure and all that. And then problems with stealth. Some people have had some issues with like, it seems like not as thoughtful as the main combat. So there seems to be, like, I think it was IGN gave it, I think, a 9.5, and that person really loved the combat. It was either a 9 or a 9.5, but it seemed like it would have been a tick or two lower given some of the complaints. I'm just saying, I think that they're glowing about the world so much and the art design and everything that we're going to look at this, in a few months' time or something and be like, well, yeah, but, there was these quality of life kind of things that they, I don't know.
Right. Like the bloom might be off the rose a little bit, in a couple months, where it's like, okay, I've gotten used to, kind of the beauty. I'm not as awestruck by it. And now I'm noticing like gameplay. Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like, I feel like it depends on how you like write a review, but there is a tendency, no matter which way you go about it, I think, unless you truly just hate something, honestly. There is a tendency to either, if you give a score first, like, you try to go a little higher, and then as you like get into the review, you sort of like remember things that you're like, oh, and that wasn't so great, and you like write it and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot about this one thing and whatever. But then you sort of get done with it, and then you think, but it really wasn't so bad. Like it's so in the moment that either way you like put your overall review score, I feel like your tendency is to be more generous. Which I think can be detrimental sometimes, because I think if there are real issues, like your review, your overall score should reflect that.
I think it lends itself to the importance of reading a review.
Exactly.
The number, I know in the game community, there's always talks about, should we give a review a number score or not, and ultimately so many people want that because most people can only read headlines now anyways. Well, that's essentially the version of that in the game space or in whatever, in a review space, is what's the number? Like, just tell it, give me, is it good or not?
Right.
And so reading a review or listening to a review, whatever, and seeing how their opinion is colored by their bias or whatever they love, then it's, or dislike, like I would give Horizon Zero Dawn like a 9.5, but it probably shouldn't have a 9.5. It should probably be an 8 or something, there's plenty wrong with it that could be fixed. But for me, I like you say, what's important to me outweighs the negative things, and ultimately when I look back at them, they're acceptable. So
sometimes I kind of wonder about being too generous in review. Do game makers then look at that and think like, well, we knew that there were problems, and you can't ever make a game, I think, 100% perfect for everyone or anyone. But does that make them, not try as hard then? If they're like, oh, well, they were accepting of all these flaws and they still gave it, a 9.5. Is it like, well, I guess we don't have to, improve as much as we thought, and then there's less trying? I don't know. I'm not saying it's like a direct correlation, but I think it's a consideration that people should have. Because if there's nowhere to go, then why strive? Why strive for better? Why strive for more?
Well, I think it's, to me, it doesn't seem like this game is going to get a sequel. It's about the events on this island. It feels like an epic samurai movie and not, the start of the next franchise. I could be wrong. Yeah, I think that it should stay that way, but at the same time, they're not getting the opportunity to improve on those things in the next iteration. They'll improve in their next game if it's a similar, there'd be similar mechanics or whatever, but
Right.
So, well, either way, I do want to play it sometime. It looks gorgeous. I'm happy there is a samurai game out there now that is not like a fantastical, it's like a grounded kind of real
Authentic
thing.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that it seems to be generally well reviewed, and I hope it sells a lot. So
yeah, will be something to keep our eyes on and see how it does.
Yep.
See if there's any other kind of big news relating now that it's out,
Yeah.
If their sales numbers are, kind of record, that'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, PlayStation's had 2 really big titles come out
Mhm.
very recently. So,
Yeah.
will it be competing for the same space if people had enough time to finish Last of Us Part 2, if or whatever, or yeah, it'd be interesting to see the sales for sure. So, but well, let's see, because this was coming out, so I was talking to our friend Dustin about, because he's the biggest samurai fan I know.
Oh
And
man, you should have joined us for this episode.
yeah, I thought about asking him, but it's like I don't know if he would enjoy this or not. I should have just asked, but but he so he's pumped to play the game for sure.
Yeah.
And he went to Japan with us the one time, and one of his big priorities was something samurai. And so we went to a samurai museum in Japan, which is tons of fun. Alan, I don't know if you brought any pictures. Did you bring pictures of the museum? If you did, you can pull them up as I'm talking.
Yes.
If you didn't, it's not a big deal either way.
I definitely need to see. Where was the Samurai Museum?
So we were staying in Shinjuku, Tokyo, and it's sort of really considered sort of a party district. And so when we would tell some people,
sorry, for anybody who's like watching us right now, my shocked face was because Alan just told us that his catalogs were corrupted. And so I thought that meant he lost his photos from Japan. But then he quickly said, like, I have backups though. So I was like, okay, all right, you're good. But God, that would have been a tragedy.
Yeah. I have some, but my camera was not as well acclimated to the dimly lit samurai museum, and so they're not special. But yeah, so we were telling people, and that's where we were staying and stuff, and they said that they expressed that, I'm sorry, kind of, because it's sort of a seen as a rambunctious party town and not the like favorable area of Japan that we would like you to experience as a tourist. But we had a great time there, and this museum was a lot of fun. And they talked about, they put facial hair on the masks for the samurai, and that's because facial hair it was scary. And so like the tour guy like pointed to, I think maybe Dustin and some other people in the group was like, you're very scary, they would say, so that's the idea that strike fear into the heart of your enemy by having facial hair on your samurai mask. So
is that what you're doing? Like striking fear in the heart of your enemies right now?
Sure. For sure. Yeah.
Shoot, I will never be able to inspire fear. Dang it.
Yeah. But yeah, that was a great time. It was good to see. I think it's a private collection there. And so anyways, talking to Dustin, I asked what samurai movie should I watch, and this game was clearly and obviously inspired by the Kurosawa films. pretty legendary. And I haven't seen any. So it's a pretty big shameful spot in my like pop culture background, because not, all this Japanese stuff I like, but then those films have been so influential on a lot of things
Right.
that I do like, very influential to Star Wars and that kind of thing. So not seeing the roots of a lot of stuff is a shame point for me. But he suggested a movie called Kill, and looked around, and it's available on HBO Max. He told me it was one of the maybe the first or one of the first samurai movies he saw, and was really impressed at how he was able to connect to this film that's not made anywhere near here and different culture and all this stuff. And so kind of wanted to see it off of his recommendation.
Yeah.
And is not a Kurosawa film, but fun to watch nonetheless. So before we get into talking about that movie, I wanted to ask, what is your experience with the samurai genre in any form?
Yeah, it is next to nothing. It is pretty much nil. When I was a kid, I watched Samurai Jack, the cartoon. But as a kid, you don't really get like the deeper cultural aspects of a cartoon. I mean, I think you get some, but like, you don't really fully appreciate it the way you do when you're an adult. But I loved Samurai Jack. That was one of my favorite cartoons when I was little.
It's
that's
well done.
Yeah, it's really good. Sure. I actually today I rewatched the first episode just because I was like, oh, I'm feeling nostalgic. It's also available on HBO Max, so go HBO. And was just like really impressed with the quality of the production all over again. Like telling this like beautiful backstory of like how Samurai Jack has trained to get revenge on the evil magician who's captured his father and plunged his kingdom into poverty and despair. And yeah, it's really cool.
So revenge story, that's very
classic.
Fitting. And the style clearly is, informed a lot by, anime and stuff. So, yeah, it's a good one to watch. I haven't seen the second season or whatever, the newer one. I haven't watched that. Have you tried that before?
I haven't either.
I watched, I think, only a couple episodes, but I should give that a try. Well, I don't have a great history either. And all this stuff is like, like it's sort of, what can I liken it to? Where it's sort of like Vikings in culture. You have the idea of Vikings, and most of it's not accurate.
Yes.
It's become a thing greater or, evolved in a very pop culture sort of way. And so it infects a lot of different things. It's, it takes inspiration from, so a lot of the stuff I've seen is like that, like,
sure.
A lot of anime.
Yeah.
So Ninja Scroll, Samurai Champloo, Samurai X, or Rurouni Kenshin, it's called. And then Samurai 7, which is the like anime adaptation of Seven Samurai.
Oh, so, sure.
But then more fantastical. So that kind of thing. And then The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise.
Yeah, I have not even seen that, which I think Chris was pretty disappointed to learn when I said that.
Yeah, I mean, we should have watched that I wanted to watch it like, I want to say actual samurai movie for this, but that's a well done movie with a great score and with care and appreciation put into that as well,
Right. Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I think it's just not quite classic samurai movie. From what obviously for what I've gleaned from the samurai genre or samurai cinema, looking at some research, not unfortunately through my own watching, but
yep. But yeah, definitely would recommend that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I saw a YouTube video of a guy that runs like a dojo that kind of rating some fights and different films and stuff, and he rated The Last Samurai pretty good. He was impressed with what Tom Cruise had managed in a couple years of practice, he said. So
Sure.
training.
That is one thing. Tom Cruise isn't always my favorite actor, but that is definitely one thing I will give him. He like commits to a
Yep.
role and he commits to get the most authentic experience and skills that he can attain in a reasonable amount of time. Like he really does.
Yep.
Like he commits himself fully, and I do appreciate that about him as an actor.
Yep. Yep. For sure. All right. Um, the movie Kill from
Mhm.
1968, available
Yeah.
on HBO Max.
Mhm.
What did you? Oh, we should put up spoilers. I wasn't
Oh,
thinking
yeah, I
that.
suppose.
I mean, there's a time. I mean, it's been a number of years.
I was
I
gonna
have to
say
say,
from
but
1968 to now, but
maybe as someone
just in case,
they've heard us talking about this and like, hey, I have HBO Max and I
right?
should watch this movie too. Maybe that sounds like a good idea. And I don't
Yes.
want to spoil, what we're
Side
telling you
note,
now,
you may have HBO Max and not even know it. If you have HBO Go or HBO Now, check because
there
I
you
have
go.
definitely found that you can access HBO Max for free. So do it.
There you go. Yep. All right. Your first samurai movie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, mine too, really. First real one. Off the recommendation of Dustin. What'd you
Yes.
think?
I liked it. I wasn't sure that I was going to in the beginning. There were about 10 to 15 minutes of getting into the movie that was very just like in media race. Like you just were like thrown in there and just had to like figure out what was going on. There wasn't a whole lot of clues, context for what exactly was happening in this like dusty street where these two men were meeting very randomly, it seemed. So it was really hard. I just didn't feel like I got a good setup, but I don't think that's really the point of the intro. Like there's not a lot of concern. It's just like, well, you're gonna get it later in the movie, so like we're just gonna jump right in here. But once I was really introduced to the characters, kind of the plot line of the movie, I really enjoyed it, and I really found myself, attached to the two main characters and the bond that they sort of very uniquely formed through this
Sure.
movie, even though they were like technically on opposite sides of this conflict.
Yep. Yeah, I mean that's been a hallmark of they of Kurosawa films that Star Wars took as well, as like tossing you in, and you see that with the spaghetti westerns then too,
Yeah,
also very related.
absolutely.
Where it's dropping you in hot.
Yep.
There is no context. There's no like it's not a bunch of um blanking on the term for it, but the setup isn't there.
Oh,
It's
exposition.
you're gonna yeah, right. It's
Yep.
not it's just you're gonna start experiencing this and it's gonna throw a bunch of questions in your head then. And
Yep.
you're gonna be wondering what's going on. And you just have confidence that it's gonna answer those things, and the things that aren't answered you don't need to know.
Yeah.
But I always like that. It gets to the point, gets you moving, and yeah,
Yeah, it gets you
makes you pay
engaged.
attention.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. Because of course it's, not this like nice, neat, like opening, like, here you go, here's everything you need to know. We're just serving it up for
Yeah.
you on a platter. It's very like, boy, I better pay attention because I have no idea what's happening.
Yep. Yep. Not always good to watch with like, you know, your mother-in-law or something.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on?
Yes.
Why is he doing, or that's a
Yes.
stereotype, but anyway, plenty of people shockingly have to ask questions. And it's like, if you're
Mm-hmm.
watching it, they will provide the answers you need. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So they will come.
Yes.
They will come.
Yes. Yeah, if you have
Uh,
questions after the movie's over, that's fine with me. But
yeah.
like, but at least wait
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah. Hmm. Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed it. I didn't
Hmm.
know what to expect really. Um,
Yeah.
First impressions were I am not a fan of a lot of people's hair. I know that's important.
It was
Uh,
awful.
but I mean, there's like the traditional style, and then
Yeah.
there's just Agenta, which I don't know what that was.
Yeah, that little
He
like
was,
fan kind of going
yeah,
on. Yeah.
I want to know if that was just like him. I'm not samurai anymore, so whatever, or if that was no. This is how we did yakuza hair then.
Hmm. Yep.
You're part of because he seemed to indicate like, see, look at my hair.
Right. I'm
I'm
Yakuza.
Yakuza. You don't want to,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but
Yeah,
I
I
had
didn't
never seen it before.
yeah, I didn't know either if that was like a literal like look at my hair sort of choice or if that was just like a gesture he was making to his person, but
Hmm.
it would be interesting to find out because yeah, that was pretty bad hair if that wasn't intentional.
Well, it was bad either way, but yes,
Yeah.
intentionally.
At least it would be bad with a purpose, I guess, to like
Hmm. Yep.
signal that you're part of the yakuza.
Hmm. But I had to say, I agree that the two main characters were endearing.
Mhm.
I was interested to watch them, and Gento was very, very cool. I was surprised.
Mhm.
He's the kind of guy I like to see in the film. He is, a man of lesser words,
Mhm.
and you know seemed wise.
Mhm.
And so he was part of the main struggle of the film. We see is, like you say, um what's his name, Tabata,
Mhm.
like named after the exercise, named after him, I guess. He was a farmer.
Mhm.
I can relate, I guess, but he wanted to be a samurai
Mhm.
and didn't maybe know what that all entails.
Yes.
So
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting to see these two characters who maybe not in quite in the first scene, but as we moved into a little bit further of the movie's plot, could really tell that they were sort of like these trope characters. Like Genta was, once a samurai, but was disillusioned with their way of life, has quit, is now kind of a roaming nomad, but still has all these like really cool skills. He's like, a great fighter. Like you said, he's a man of few words. When he talks, it is like either very profound or very cool.
mhm,
Um, so he's sort of like this romantic, mythologized
yeah,
figure, the lonely wanderer, who's looking for his place now. And then Tabata was very like, kind of bumbling farmer, and I have my
yeah,
ideals. Like I don't mean
yep.
bumbling farmer like you.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Okay,
all
so he
farmers are
wasn't.
bumbling,
I
but
see.
but
Uh-huh.
but you know
I'm
what
just
I
gonna go
mean.
get some straw right now and put it in my mouth and put on my overalls.
Can you just go lift a post of a house for me, please? Thank you. Um, but he is this sort of like naive figure who has
Yeah.
come from more humble roots and is now like, oh, I'm gonna join this way of life, and I've heard it's so wonderful, and I've sold the farm for my sword, and I have a lot to learn. And he becomes closer to Genta, who becomes his mentor, kind of big brother but also friend figure. And even though I could very clearly read these two as what they were, the performances really grounded it for me. You know what I mean? Like it didn't feel tired. It didn't feel like, oh, I know what these characters are going to do because I know who they are and I know this type of character. It really felt fresh and I was engaged the entire time, kind of dependent on their relationship through the movie and how they dealt with, whatever was happening around them.
Mhm.
So I thought that was really well done.
I have to say, Tabata was one of the most expressive people I've seen. He was
Yes.
really very animated.
Yeah, I was gonna say he
Um,
belongs in an anime almost. Like his reactions
yes.
were so expressive that I could almost see them in an anime character.
Yep. You can see the difference. I mean, it just always fascinates me how a culture develops. You can
Mhm.
see how these are from 1968 and till today we have with anime, how the style or the understanding of the way that you express an emotion or something on stage is there.
Yes.
It's consistent and so different than what we're used to.
Absolutely.
But there's a term, I forget what it's called. There's a term for like American humor, and it basically means not funny.
Okay.
It shows our like where senses of humor or the way that's shown is very different. So
yeah.
What'd you think of so I like that you put, you got some kind of themes you're talking about here. What'd you think of the overall plot?
Once I figured it out, I thought it was very interesting. There were definitely some moments where I wasn't quite sure who exactly was doing what and who was sort of like trying to, you know, restore order in this kind of smaller town that was happening. So that was a little bit confusing. I wish there would have been some clear delineations, I think, between the groups. I think the group that Genta helps out, led by, oh boy, I'm gonna totally butcher that name, but Tetsuro.
I wrote down Judota, so I don't know
Okay.
what his other name is, but yeah.
I know it
the
begins with a
squad leader.
T. Yes. So I felt like they were a very clear group, and then like Ayuzawa was very clear, but I didn't know always who all the men were when they were kind of fighting and when they were like moving up the mountain to like this hideout. I wasn't quite sure all the time who was who.
Right.
So that was really tough for me, but um I thought it was a really interesting like notion that, this like leader of a small town double crosses this group of samurai and pins, kind of like an action on them, and is trying to get them killed and like take over and consolidate power. I thought that was very um again, very like, not, it's not quite the most original thing I've ever seen, but like the way that it was done here kept me guessing and kept me interested.
Maybe we're talking about different. You were talking about the squad leader, right? That was leading. He was leading the men up the mountain, and like you said, Genta was helping that group.
Yeah, it's
His
so
name was Jirota Araro. Jirota Araro. That's hard to say. Araro.
oh no,
Otherwise,
so okay, I know where
you're
we're.
thinking of Tetsutaro, right?
Yes, that's who I'm thinking of. So he like is ultimately helping him in that group that's trapped in the fort.
Mm.
Um
Yeah. Right. He's the like the I forget the term they used for him, but he was the leader, really, running
yes.
the main samurai there that he wanted to be a part of. Yes.
Yes. So this sort of like actually illustrates, I think, my issue with the movie. It was like I wasn't quite sure how everybody was sort of like relating to each other.
Hmm.
You know, like in fight sequences, it was more clear, like, like a band of like Ayuzawa's men would, rush Genta, and it's like, okay, well, I get what's happening here. But
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of the times on the mountain, I wasn't quite sure what everybody's goal was and what
Mhm.
everybody was doing.
Yeah. It's definitely a person sometimes takes for granted how much some movies these days like really hold your hand or explain things out, or again,
Yeah.
exposition wise, and so I definitely found myself too like, okay, wait a minute, what's this person's motivation, what are they trying to do, that kind
Hmm.
of thing. Would
Right.
definitely come clearer watching again. I don't think that's a fault of the film. I don't know.
No.
I think that was on me mostly, but
Yeah, it was a little confusing, I think, in terms of I there were like two groups outside the fort on the mountain, like Aizawa's men that were coming, and then it was
Yep.
like, you know,
The
like some
men.
officials were
Yep.
out there at one point. So yeah, I had a hard time delineating like who was outside that fort. But yeah.
Um, Alan brought up Ashley's in the chat, and she says, "I bet he's not," because I mentioned the one guy is really expressive. She says, "I bet he's not as expressive as the guy from Zombie Ass." And I'm sure you haven't seen this movie, but
No, but
if you can find it some,
I've heard you
oh
talk
really?
about it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I wish it didn't like just disappear from the face of the earth. I don't know where it is now. It's not on a streaming platform, I guess. But yes, the guy
Have
from Zombie Ass does indeed have this actor beat. So
tell me very quickly like the plot line of Zombie Ass. Because I feel like I've at least you've like shown me a scene from it, and I just want to make sure I'm thinking of the right movie.
I have a poster right up on my wall of Zombie Ass. It's a small poster, but Tara got it for me. It's Zombie Ass Toilet of the Dead. Um, it's so if I can remember the plot, I don't know that the
Sure.
plot like is very important, but something with you would become a zombie and like you would you're boy, I don't want to mess this up. I don't want to like ruin a classic, but
That's
something
okay.
with
I
like
looked it up, and I've
okay,
definitely seen at least one scene of this movie for sure.
okay, okay,
Yes, totally. It may have honestly been with Ashley and Tara. I think we had like a
okay,
girls' day, and I watched part of this. But yes,
okay.
I've definitely seen
Well,
it.
we need to find the whole thing and watch it again. It's very odd.
Yes.
It's fun. It's over the top, and then it like evolves slash devolves almost into tentacle porn territory.
Yes.
Like
Yep.
it it's a thing. It's definitely
I am
it should be a
recalling.
cult classic.
Memories are coming back.
Yeah. Yeah.
My suppressed memories are returning.
Mhm. So, anyways, we'll dilute the Criterion Collection film Kill with Zombie Ass talk right
Yes.
now.
Well,
But
Kill had a little dirty moment of its own, with our main
oh,
character, Tabata,
Magenta. Oh,
um, throwing that chick up in the little, I mean, I don't wanna be, like, too expressive, but it was, basically a whorehouse that he was visiting. Um, and, like, the farmer girl that Oyo found for him, and he, like, scrubs her makeup off, and he's like, "Oh my goodness, you're a real woman, and your hands are of the earth,"
yeah,
and whatever, and then he just, like, tosses her up in the air,
yeah,
like, 3
yeah.
different times, and I was like, "That is
Wow.
honestly the most acrobatic sex I've ever seen slash not seen because that's not sex,
He
but
was just
wow."
cheering for the, he's excited. It probably wasn't that athletic uh
I don't know, he's
after.
clearly a
But
strong guy, and he,
yeah, I guess.
he
Yeah.
likes to physically express himself, but yeah, wow, that
It's
was
true.
a I wasn't ready for that, that was very funny.
It's true. They did emphasize like the strength his strength.
Yes.
Because like he lifted up the support beam
Yeah.
and the building and put his shoe under there and stuff. So
Mhm.
that was interesting. Must be, you know, I don't know. Yeah, but yeah, I didn't think of that. Um, I liked that levity.
Yeah, I did too.
That was odd but funny. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the movie needed a couple of those moments just, kind of break up um some of the energy. It's a lot of very like on and present and tense energy. So
Hmm.
I think the movie did need those like quieter moments of like, oh, it's just like
Yeah.
funny. We can just like, break for a second and laugh at this. Or there were some quieter moments like when Genta's playing a game
Yeah.
with
Right. I was
with the
gonna say
older
that.
gentleman.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's nice that there are quieter moments because everybody I felt like all the time was just like, oh my gosh, it's very intense.
Yep. I think so. I was good with pretty much all of the acting, the
Hmm.
over expressiveness aside, other than, and again, this character was reminiscent of an anime character, like it still is pervasive in this type of character. But Fuji was one of the
Yeah,
characters in the group, and
he was a
he
lot.
just went off the rails up
Yep.
in that cabin there, just going nuts. It's like, why don't you calm down? I'm glad the
Yeah.
one guy stepped up and
Yeah.
said, "Hey, we knew we were sacrificing is for sure risking our lives doing this. What are
Yep.
we getting all crazy and potentially rapey right now?
Yeah.
Because like this was expected.
Yep.
This is we're doing this because we know this is right." So I
Yeah.
was,
Yeah,
yeah.
he was a lot as a character.
Mm.
His intensity level was like dialed up to 10 all the time. Um, and it sort of made me wonder honestly how he joined the group because it seems like
Yeah,
this group had been in sort of tense situations before and he clearly doesn't react to that very well.
right.
Because I wrote down like he couldn't have been going stir crazy at that point. Like I know in the movie like time has passed and maybe
Uh-huh.
more time has passed than you can convey accurately in a movie, but man, he was just nuts in that cabin. Um and I just thought like wow, like I guess maybe it's the pressure of, there's no way out of here and you just like know you're going to die, but yeah, he did not seem to fit in with the group particularly well.
Yep. Yep. Another thing I really liked it was so the potential battle between um, Genta and Jurota, where they
Mm,
didn't fight, but it was
yeah.
kind of a standoff, and like they do this thing so well that gives you the setup that these here are two masters
Yes.
of swordplay, and wouldn't you like to see them fight? But then
Mhm.
they don't, and it
Yep.
just it's sometimes what you're not shown and what they hold back that
Mhm.
adds to the effectiveness of a moment. And I like that a lot, and I wanted to bring up Judo Tough because he was another cool character
He
trying to do
was.
what's right because he's trying to free his wife,
Mhm.
from having to sell herself to pay off debt.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, he doesn't make it back.
Mhm.
We get to see that the debt does get paid off, so ultimately that's great.
Right.
But we don't get the reunion, so he's kind of
Mhm.
a sad but very cool character.
Yeah, very, very tragic. And Jiroto is like a dark sort of foil for Genta and kind of man that he could have unfortunately ended up being.
Hmm.
Like both trying to do the right thing, both sometimes for a woman. And, Genta gets his reunion and then Jirota, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Hmm.
he
Yep.
doesn't.
Right. Yep. Yep. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a you know a samurai film,
Hmm.
but not very pro samurai. You know.
Yeah, that honestly to me was one of the most interesting things about this film because I feel like in a film, even though I've only like understood bits and pieces of The Last Samurai because I haven't actually seen it myself, I think there is a sort of tendency towards romanticism of
Mm,
samurai lifestyle. Um Now that, it's something of the past and
right. Yep.
it once seemed noble and you don't sort of have to grapple with the realities that, it wasn't comprised of just like these noble people. Like there were good people, there were bad people, like certain
Yep.
groups, weren't very honorable samurai. But in retrospect, there's I think a tendency to just like look at the sort of sad plight of samurai as that sort of culture was ending and they did get turned into these like lonely wanderer, very romanticized figures. And I think this is a really great movie that points out, hey, it's not that great to be a samurai all the time. Like we don't have to
Yep.
just say they're, broadly good. We can look at some of the complexities.
Yep. Yeah, it's like The Last Samurai does do a good job of, I think, of kind of bringing about that sadness of an end
Mhm.
of an era. Um, but at the same time, looking at it, it's like, well, it's um, you do get that romanticism, but I don't know, it brings up different aspects of it. It's kind of like cowboys. We
Mhm.
romanticize cowboys a lot here,
Absolutely.
obviously, but it was grungy and terrible and stuff. And even back then, they romanticized, like back in the day when
Oh yeah.
we were just out to Deadwood, and Wild Bill was a big deal.
Mhm.
Calamity Jane was a big deal. Like they went around, like these were kind of heroes and known, and the tales were spread about them. And yeah, it's definitely a tendency, even now for sure, looking back, like you say, to romanticize that stuff even further. When someone
Mhm.
like Calamity Jane was a very sad character, really. Um,
Exactly.
and like I've looked into getting a tattoo of a samurai on my arm or something like that.
Mhm.
And it's one of those things, like if you're going to deal in history, you are going to be um, amazed and disappointed,
Yes.
because there are samurai that are revered in Japan and remembered for something particular. But it's people from a different time.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that they also weren't responsible for killing a lot of people, or,
Mhm.
or the takeover of a certain set of
Right.
people or whatever that maybe isn't so great, but they were remembered for a specific good thing they did or whatever. So
Yes.
you definitely have to take the good and the bad. And this film, like you say, touches on parts of that it's there is an honor and a respect that is given to someone that will dedicate their life to being a samurai. But at the same
Mhm.
time, maybe that's not what you want. Saw the
Right.
downsides too. So,
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to paint a group of people broadly as good or bad. You can't just
yeah.
broad brushstroke it. Like you really have to look at individual people because it's just not possible for every single person in a large group of people like that to just be a good person.
Mhm.
You have a spectrum of humanity that, maybe study the samurai way, but don't fully commit to it in their heart, or don't are just like sort of using it as an opportunity, um or maybe commit to it and then kind of get corrupted a little bit. It's just there's a broad spectrum of humanity that you do have to look at, and I think this movie does a good job of showing you like noble characteristics, like in somebody
Mhm.
like Genta, but then also like Tabata is very disillusioned by the end of the movie with being a samurai.
Yep. Yep. So I didn't put anything about this in the notes, so it's kind of thrown on you. Do you have any thoughts on honor? So samurai are like it's a big element of their way of life is to live
Mhm.
honorably, and it'd be self-sacrifice if you're dishonored, you find yourself
Right.
dishonored, so, that kind of thing. So, um, do you have, if you can't think of anything right now, it can be relevant to another conversation another time, but do you have any thoughts on honor, its place in life? Is it, it's kind of one of those things, like sometimes you might be able to save your life if you do something a little
Mhm.
dishonorable.
Mhm.
Is that worth it? Is standing up like for pride or honor worth it? Um, in
Yeah.
in a modern society, in any society, in your daily life,
Yeah. Um
I'm just throwing this out there.
yeah, sure. I mean, it's obviously a central question of the movie whether, these samurai who have, kind of backed themselves in a corner and are now like basically waiting to die. Um is it worth it? Because they believe that they've done the right thing.
Mhm.
And for most of them, that's a yes. Obviously, for Fuji, that's like a big maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, you know, I I hope that if there was something that I believed in so strongly that I stood up for and maybe did or didn't know that it was is, maybe going to cost me my life, but
Mm,
if it was something that I just so strongly believed in, I would hope that I would do it nevertheless. But
right.
it would have to be a situation where I would feel that it was big. I don't think that it, yeah, I think there's levels of things that I would know that this is like a big moment and would have to make that decision, but probably not simply for pride. Um You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, I I would have it would be very contextual for me, like, very dependent on the situation, on, like I said, how big something is, but I hope so. I hope I would have that
Yeah.
conviction, and I hope that I would have that, like, sense of self and belief and just, like yeah, like I said, conviction that whatever I was doing was worth it and was the right thing to do.
So, well, I thought of an example now.
Okay.
This was a this was a mass shooting at some point. I don't remember which one,
Mm,
but the culprit had people lined up like in a hallway down on their knees or whatever, and would go to them and point the gun at them and say, "Do you believe in God?"
mhm.
And if they said yes, he would shoot them and then move on to the next person. And so if you were in this situation, now we're atheists, so it's
Yeah.
or agnostic, whatever, so it's a different, but this is if it's a thing you believe. Now, you on the one hand, the honorable thing to do would be to state what you believe,
Mhm.
and you stand for that and take the repercussions of what's to come here. But the logical side might say, well, um, I have a wife at home,
Mhm.
kids, whatever, spouse, parents, all this stuff. I can say no. What does it matter?
Mhm.
And then live and go home.
Yeah.
So is my pride, is my honor worth my life and the sadness and sorrow of my loved ones
Mhm.
or not? And so
Yeah.
that's the dichotomy or the trick with that of a samurai, where you're disgraced in battle, therefore commit ritual suicide,
Mhm.
because you're dishonored. Um, that kind of thing, it it makes it a tougher. It feels archaic, but at the same time,
Mhm.
like, what are we going to live for if you can't stand for something? So
Yeah, I mean, I want to say that in that situation, and this is I mean, I have no idea how this would change if, I had kids, you know, like little
mhm,
kids dependent on me for care or whatever, and not just Chris. Like, even though Chris is obviously a consideration, like he doesn't depend on me for life. Um,
right.
But I feel like in that sort of situation, I would totally be like, just knowing my personality, I would be kind of a stubborn little jerk and totally just be like, nope, like this is my belief and I'm going to say it and um you know, this is this
And is
and I
that the right thing to do?
yeah, like that's a question. Is that the right thing to do? Is it truly worth it? But
Hmm.
is it the right thing to do for other people, or is it the right thing to do for me? Like, am I gonna, like,
Right.
think about it? Am I gonna be haunted by it? Am I gonna be like, am I a false person? Am I, shouldn't I have just stood up for my convictions? Like, how long would I dwell on this sort of thing?
So is honor selfish? Because,
Honor can be,
you know,
because I
because
think
if
it's something
you're,
that you
say you
judge
have
for
the
yourself. Like other people can judge your honor, but I think like when it comes down to it, the person who judges your honor the most is you.
Right. Yep. Hmm. Well, it's I always think it's an interesting thing to think about
Mhm.
because um, there is definitely a logical side of
Yeah.
my mind, and but at the same time, the selfish sort of innately human side of me says, well, you need to be able to live with yourself if you are going to be able to live. So,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah, and I think there's kind of only so much that we could guess that we would respond to in this sort of situation
yes,
where, I mean, the cold hard reality of a weapon being pointed at you could, you know,
yep,
you know, change your mind or simply reflexively cause you to respond and you like
yes,
don't even think about it. Um
yeah,
but I think for going back to like a samurai, that would be maybe a little bit different because they would, you know, uh, ideally have had some sort of combat training and faced some sort of, peril, whether mortal or no,
hmm,
before. You know what I mean? So it wouldn't be so like, "Oh,
sure,
this totally changes the game for me," now I'm facing down the edge of a sword. It's like, "Oh, perhaps
hmm,
you've done that before." So,
yep. Yep. I don't know. It'd be interesting to know what
mhm,
if there are statistics on any of that sort of thing with like the average lifespan of a samurai, how many of
mhm.
them made it through
Yeah,
more than one battle? What's the percentage there?
yeah,
You got to imagine it's like you know, anything our Revolutionary War and
mhm,
earlier for sure.
mhm,
Um, where you're just that person on the front line running in,
mhm.
just just gonna get stabbed. Like
Right,
that's just it's gonna happen. Bayoneted, you're done.
right, or one of the
Uh,
musicians, holding your flute
yeah,
or whatever,
yeah,
and you're just, "Ah, crap."
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, we have it good, and we fortunately don't have to debate too hard generally if we need to, like between honor and um, the greater good
Yeah.
or logic or whatever in that such a dire circumstance. So
It would be an interesting thing to know about ourselves, I think. If there was a way to test it, it would be very interesting. Test
mhm.
it without, I mean, maybe in the moment you would be convinced it was mortal peril, but it's not actually. You know what I mean? That would be a very
Yeah,
interesting character test, and it might not be so great for everybody, you know?
that's the thing. You maybe really don't want to know. Like they do that
Yeah.
with police training and stuff.
Mhm.
They try to scare you and get you into situations that you are making your adrenaline kick in and
Right.
see how you respond. A lot of people, you don't know how you're going to respond until the moment, and a lot of people just respond poorly, and there's
Mhm.
nothing they can do about it,
Right.
about being confronted with seemingly imminent death quickly.
Right.
So
Right.
um, yeah. That's the next version of Naked and Afraid or something, right? So they got people
Yeah.
like, can you survive 14 days in the wilderness? And the next one is going to be, will you will you sell your spouse and your children to not be, and have your fingernails pulled out one at a time?
Right.
Something. So yeah.
I'd watch it. I'd be interested.
Yeah. I mean yeah,
I mean, it's
that'd be
it's
bad.
it's always interesting to see like human nature. Do you know what I mean? Like and people's
Yes.
responses and who surprises you and who doesn't.
Yep. hmm I
Because I
just
think
saw a thing. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I think we all like make surface judgments about people or we make, guesses at our own responses and it's really interesting to see like, when you put it to the test, like does that hold up?
Yep. hmm Yep. I saw a story I wanted to read. It was titled Lord of the Flies got it wrong, and so I
Oh
wanted to see
yeah,
what
I read that.
they say. Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
definitely like it's based on a group of boys who got stranded in I think Australia or New Zealand, like an island out there, and they like worked in harmony to survive for at least a year, I want to say.
wow.
Um
Okay.
yeah, and it's totally like they didn't like break down, they didn't, um have issues where they killed another boy and picked on him because he was weak
Right.
or whatever. There to be fair, there were less kids, so I don't know how
Right.
that changes the dynamic. I think there were only like
Yeah.
4 or 5 boys in this real life story, and in of course, um, in Golding's Tale, I think they're like 10 or 12 or something because it's a whole class
Yep.
at least. Um, so yeah, but it was interesting to see like these boys basically just like were like, "Okay, we have to figure this out. We can't go anywhere. We just have to work together so we can all survive." So,
If ever you think maybe humanity just shouldn't exist, we have examples like this sometimes
yeah,
that
it
come
is
through, and it's like, look at that,
it is wonderful to see, like, to be
positive.
like, "Oh,
Yeah.
thank God not everybody's terrible."
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I know we skipped some stuff, but was there any other larger elements or something we didn't cover that you wanted to get across or speak about in your first, really our first real samurai film?
Mhm. I think the only other thing that I was really interested in was, obviously women had very small roles in this movie,
Mm,
which
yep.
I thought made sense. I mean, it wasn't, focused on women terribly much. They were sort of a little bit of plot devices sometimes. Um, but Chino was like the woman we see the most. Um, and I thought she was a very sharp woman. Like I know she like
Mhm.
sort of initially came off as a little bit hysterical and she's very worried about this group of samurai. Um and wants to go warn them about what's coming. But I mean, I also thought she was a really brave character for going to warn them about what was coming,
Yeah.
even though they really didn't believe her. Um until they were convinced by someone else, and then she sort of warns everybody about Monosuke like eyeing her up and betraying the group to
Hmm.
Aizawa, and then they don't really believe her about that until it actually happens again. So I was kind of just like, man, can you just like listen to this woman, please? She clearly has an
Yep.
idea of what's going on. She's very sharp and seems to be able to read people very well. So
And that's part of the, I think, blinded by honor again. You
yes,
see the people around you and you think that we're honorable men here. We're out for this cause and stuff. Of course, there wouldn't be doing that. Wouldn't be, you
right.
know, lusting over you. That's ridiculous. But very clearly, yes. And shows that, you know, the um the emotional side of humanity like
Mhm.
often wins out over
Yes.
something higher. So yeah, I know. I liked the character. Um, I definitely was worried for her.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, it was
and I
it was
liked.
just nice that, I just thought it was nice that she wasn't reduced solely to, like, weeping fragile woman or hysterical
Mhm.
or, I mean, obviously, like, she needed some help, like, she needed, to be protected, but also, like, that wasn't literally just, like, the sole end all be all, like, she had
Right.
stuff to offer the group as well, so that was nice.
Yep. Yep. No, and I I don't remember her name, but I do like the girl as well that Tabata liked. Washed all
Yeah.
the makeup off her face. She just had a good, fun, like, light about her.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I thought
So,
I thought all the women had, minor but kind of pivotal roles in the movie too.
and then the old guy that was really the head of things. He's like, I just want to
Yes.
stay here. Just to stay at the brothel. That sounds
I
nice.
I did not see that coming at all.
Mm-hmm. Right.
He was a
Me
fun
either.
character.
Yeah, we were
And
introduced him right at the beginning. I'm gonna take a
yep,
nap, and then it's like he's the guy that's really should be in charge of anything, anyways. So
yep.
yeah, that was cool. Um, all right. Let's see. Oh, I guess I should say, just because I thought it was very cool
Hmm.
the way that Genta took down the leader, the like kind of usurper here, the bad dude.
Oh,
Um,
Aizawa.
yeah. Because it wasn't just a regular sword fight. They
Hmm.
weren't just like squaring off and then they run at each other and they both slice and then one falls and the other stands. It was this, like, he had sharpened chopsticks to throw
Hmm.
at him and stuff, and like it was a unexpected cool battle that shows off not only his skill, but you think, well, how is he going to defeat anyone? He's so banged up, you
Yep.
know so I thought that was well done.
Yeah, it showed his resourcefulness in, like we don't have to
Mhm.
just stick to traditional things. Like we can find weapons anywhere. And I mean, he obviously ends up killing Aizawa with like a it's a candlestick holder, but I'm trying to like think of the actual name of it. Um,
Mm,
like when it's like a
candelabra.
longer. Yeah, yeah, thank you, actually. Yeah, so I mean he ends up killing him with that. So it's like, yeah, he doesn't, have to just stick with a sword. He's
Yep.
like, whatever gets the job done, let's do it.
Yep. 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 Not honorable, but effective.
Yes.
So there it is.
I always think that's so funny. We like think, when I feel like it sometimes happens even to heroes, but like most often to villains when they find something around them to like fight with, we're all like, "Ah, how dare you, cheater!" And then like the hero does it, and we're like, "Whatever works." But yeah,
Yeah.
even sometimes I think of the hero and I'm like, "Man, come on, like, use your regular weapon. Like, don't just, be throwing a candle at." Like I think of Robin Hood with like Kevin Costner and he's fighting Alan Rickman and he's like throwing candles at him and I'm like, "Come on now, man. Like,
Mhm.
be fair."
Well, if
So,
you were fighting to the death and you like could just throw a little sand in someone's eye and then shank them, is that not? I
is that
mean,
honorable?
it's one of those things. Again, it brings it up. It's like, is the
Right.
point of the battle to conduct yourself in a respectable manner in this duel to the death,
Right.
or is it,
To
I am
win.
trying to protect something, I will just kill you at any cost? Like,
Right.
it's regardless of how I do it,
Right.
you must be gone and the threat must be stopped. So
Right.
to me, again, it comes down to that logic versus
Mhm.
emotional element. And I get the honor being instilled in people as a means of control. Like,
Mhm.
okay, so you need to live an honorable, dutiful life here in order to serve properly. Samurai has to
Right.
serve. And if you can get people to think that, yes, I am doing this because it is the right thing to do, ultimately, to
Mhm.
act in an honorable fashion and to serve you regardless, no questions asked, then it's a more effective means of, good soldier kind of thing.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's kind of a double-edged sword. Um in the sense of like I feel like a lot of the times our evil doer or kind of our antagonist will, if a fight is happening and the hero doesn't seem to be fighting honorably, will use that against them to kind of
Hmm.
call them out on it and then like shame them almost into fighting only fair, while our villain is like, "Oh, I'm going to do whatever's necessary to win, but that's okay because I'm the villain and you're supposed to be the
Yep.
honorable one." So they kind of try to like
Right.
hamstring them
Yep.
by saying like you can only fight honorably. But then it's also interesting that like I feel like heroes can sort of use the fact that, if they're known for being honorable that way, it's like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
honorable. Like I would never do something. And then, our
Right.
villain is surprised and being like, oh, I thought you were honorable. Like, they're like, well,
Hmm.
you know, that's how it goes sometimes. Those are
Yep.
the breaks. So
Yep.
very
Well, and
interesting.
the other one example I thought of that kind of to me leads the other way then that I was thinking of before was Game of Thrones. So spoiler for Game of
Yeah.
Thrones. Spoiler for Game of Thrones. Ned Stark is the perfect example.
Oh,
Honorable man,
yes.
honorable to a fault.
Yes.
The basically only thing you get is that he's going to protect, he's keeping his word for his
Mhm.
like child. That's, I'm going to take the fall for having cheated on my wife when I didn't,
It's
in
my
order to protect this
sister's
kid.
baby. Yeah.
Yes. And and then so that like perfect example of being honorable to a fault.
Mhm.
And then um at the end he
At his
admits
end.
to treason. Yeah, at his end he admits
Yeah.
to treason and he gets beheaded for it.
Yes.
So it would have just been better to be honorable, to stick with it then at that point
Mhm.
and die
With
seen as an
honor.
honorable man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Versus yeah.
Ned brings up so many different scenarios where, you question whether he did the honorable thing or whether that was right. I mean, even in telling Cersei that he had figured out her secret and giving her an option to be honest. Like that was his version of the honorable thing. But he definitely could have just like blown up her world without her knowing about it because she was able to make plans
Yep.
and address the
Yep.
situation and cut it off before he could ever make it a thing. And it's like, yeah, you did the
Yep.
honorable thing, but look what it triggered. Look what it
Yep.
cost not only you, but the people around you. Like, was that
Right.
worth it? So,
It's what you know, it makes right and wrong a little less clear cut. That's for
hmm
sure.
yes.
So all right. Well, that's our samurai themed episode.
hmm
Um, I hope you liked the opening. I threw that together quickly. I hope you liked the content. If you'd would like more samurai
Yeah.
content, like to see us talk of other films, or novels, Wolf and Cub. You want
hmm
or other, like Kurosawa films. Um, Let us know
Yeah.
because I certainly, again, it's been a pretty blank spot for me,
hmm
shamefully, and I should expand my vocabulary. So if I have been talking out of my butt about any of this, I do apologize. You can correct me in the comments. So
That's right. Yeah, let
follow
us know what you
us
think.
on, yeah. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and Twitch. Check out our website. We do one full episode like this each week, usually Friday or Saturday. Then Wednesdays, we are breaking down Doom Patrol Season 1. Next week is going to be, I think, episodes 10 and 11.
Yeah, you're
I
right.
believe.
We just did 8 and 9, so
So
10 and 11.
So if you're watching Doom Patrol Season 1 with us as we make our way towards Season 2, which is currently airing,
hmm
then tune into that. Otherwise, all the back episodes are on YouTube. Thank you to Killing the Flower for our normal theme song.
Thank you
But
to
everyone,
John for our special theme song.
yeah, yep, yep. And otherwise, everyone, thanks for tuning in and thanks for joining me, Andrea.
Yes, happy to as always. Bye, everybody.